Hi everyone, this is Kevin from ThunderbirdPhoto.com. Today I'm bringing to you what counts for breaking news in the world of scouring old newspapers for bizarre news of the past. And that item is a previously unknown adventure of the Tombstone Thunderbird. In April 1890, a creative, possibly bored journalist whiling away the hours at his desk inside the Tombstone Epitaph newspaper office penned a wild story about a pair of ranchers shooting down an immense reptilian creature in the dusty Arizona desert. Perhaps he was recording an actual incredible event that had been reported to him, or maybe he was simply adding his own terrible beast to the menagerie of flying monsters that were not uncommon subjects in the late 19th century American press. Whatever the case, it's unlikely the reporter imagined his winged monster would go on to become the most famous of this era, and that we'd still be talking about it here today, or that those who are passionate about these weird tales would get excited when a new adventure of the Tombstone Thunderbird comes to light, as it has very recently. The Tombstone Thunderbird, who was not originally named that, but I'll call Tommy for short, clumsily flapped its way into history due to a mix of contemporary news coverage and a tangle of legends that wound around it in the century that followed. The original story, called Found on the Desert, published Saturday, April 26, 1890, described a smooth, featherless creature resembling a huge alligator that measured approximately 92 feet in length, with a long tail and a pair of thick wings, composed of nearly transparent membrane and spanning an impossible 160 feet. That's wider than a Boeing 737. Its head was 8 feet long, with thick jaws containing strong, sharp teeth. The beast's eyes were the size of dinner plates, and it had 2 feet, a short distance from where the wings joined its body. Two ranchers, riding their horses across the desert between the Whetstone and Huachuca Mountains, were startled to spot the struggling creature, who was flying only short distances at a time, evidently greatly exhausted by a long flight. The ranchers trailed the monster for miles, and when near, fired their Winchester rifles and shot poor Tommy down. After examining their strange kill, the ranchers cut off a part of a wingtip and headed for Tombstone, planning to return the next day with a posse to skin the creature and ship its hide eastward for scientific examination. That's where the original story ended, but a 1963 retelling of the tale in Saga magazine added the detail that a photograph was taken of this creature and published in the epitaph. That does not appear to be true. The photograph has never been found, and the epitaph was not capable of publishing photos in 1890. The Saga article also switched the flying reptile with a 160-foot wingspan to a large bird with a wingspread of 36 feet. Also incredible, but far from the alligator pterodactyl thing the size of a passenger plane depicted in the original text. Nonetheless, the Tombstone story and the photograph are forever entwined. Is the photograph simply a garbled folktale built onto a fantastic story from the heyday of yellow journalism? Or are they two separate incidents that became entangled? Enough people remember seeing the missing Thunderbird photograph and recall its subject as a large bird or a prehistoric beast much smaller than Tommy that it begs the latter question. In any case, the original Tombstone Epitaph article took flight outside its Arizona confines, appearing in other American newspapers. And that brings us to this newly revealed amazing article, which not only references Found on the Desert, but serves as a prequel, even suggesting independent verification of the monster's existence. This article was brought to light by Kay Cogg on her Historical Aerial Phenomena Facebook group. She rediscovered the following rare article, originally published in the June 12, 1890 edition of the San Diego Weekly Union. It reads, "An aerial monster, what Judge Diller's little boy claims to have seen." The Sunday Examiner contained an account of a winged monstrosity that had been shot and killed by some men in Arizona. It was described as a species of animal hitherto totally unknown in the world, with enormous bat-like wings, the beak of a crocodile, an elongated body, and a tail twisted like a coil of electric wires. The story read like an Examiner fake, but a semi-corroboration is furnished by a local incident. Several days ago, the young son of Judge Diller ran pale and frightened to the house, exclaiming, "Papa, I have just seen the devil." He declared that while out on the hills in the city park, he saw an enormous creature flying through the air with bat-like wings, a long bill and a tail twisted like a donut. His father laughed at such a notion, But the little fellow stoutly held to his story. He said it flew toward the east. Yesterday, he was questioned again about it and repeated just what he had said previously. On being shown a picture of the monster reported to have been shot in Arizona, he declared it looked just like the creature he had seen. Of course, both stories are improbable, but the coincidence is just a trifle peculiar. Right away, it should be noted that the Examiner to which this article refers is certainly the San Francisco Examiner, which published the Tombstone Epitaph Monster Report in its pages on Sunday, June 8, 1890. The picture mentioned is not a photograph, but the wonderful illustration that accompanied the article, which you can see now. It is most certainly the earliest visual depiction of Tommy, as it did not appear in the original Epitaph article. The boy mentioned in this article was apparently Jimmy Diller, son of Judge J.A. Diller. Herbert Hensley later recalled this incident in his Reminiscences of Life in Turn-of-the-Century San Diego. Jimmy was exploring the treeless mesa that today is Balboa Park in June of 1890 when he saw a monstrous half-bird, half-beast with a long snout and bat-like wings. Jimmy ducked to the ground, the beast missing him as it flapped overhead and disappeared eastward at great speed. Jimmy was so riled up that he disobeyed his father's rule not to disturb his work and burst into his study, proclaiming an encounter with Satan. The judge tried to assure his son that it had only been a dream. Nevertheless, a Mr. Marvin witnessed a similar monster that very same day over Switzer Canyon near 28th Street. He swore to it on a stack of Bibles, as recounted by Jeff Smith in a great 2010 piece in the San Diego Reader. It's worth noting that there have been a couple of other occasions in which the Tombstone Monster's activities before and during its fateful day on the desert have been described. Major Horace Bell, an early Los Angeles Ranger, soldier, lawyer, and newspaperman, expounded on the topic in his posthumous 1930 memoir, On the Old West Coast, Being Further Reminiscences of a Ranger. Bell recounted vivid and horrid tales of the Elizabeth Lake Monster, a dragon-like amphibious beast that terrorized California ranchers for decades before it was seen departing the area and flying eastward around 1886. Bell stated confidently that this was the same monster killed 800 miles away on the desert outside Tombstone. In the summer 1970 edition of Old West magazine, reader Harry F. McClure insisted that the Tombstone account from 1890 was true, although exaggerated. McClure said that when he was a boy living in Lordsburg, New Mexico, everyone he knew was aware of the story and accepted its veracity. The unnamed cattlemen referenced in the epitaph story were well known and respected in his community. McClure said the description of the flying monster was on par aside from its size, with a wingspan closer to 20 or 30 feet in reality. Another big discrepancy, in the story McClure knew, the cowboys never succeeded in killing the beast, it being too far out of range for their low-velocity rifles. So, Tommy lives. The Tombstone Epitaph never published a follow-up to its eye-popping monster tale, but it wasn't a one-off. Is it possible that the Tombstone Thunderbird was a real creature that terrified young Jimmy Diller in San Diego, and possibly terrorized Elizabeth Lake, before migrating to Arizona, where it may or may not have met its fate on the desert outside Tombstone? Perhaps it's still out there. Or can we say that the Tombstone Thunderbird has inspired imaginations for more than 130 years? Not bad for an Arizona newspaperman indulging in a bit of newsroom creativity on a Saturday.